The hardest thing about Dynasty Fantasy Football is knowing when to cut bait with players that are just in bad situations. They're getting older. Maybe they're not the alpha on their team anymore. Their value's starting to tank. Nobody in your fucking league even wants them. You don't want to be the guy with his dick in his hands, still holding Julio Jones when he's not even on a fucking team anymore like I was. So in this video, we're going to be talking about DK Metcalf, bro. He's probably one of the hardest dudes to figure out what to do with him. He's still kind of in his prime, but he's also kind of aging. He's now on the Steelers with Arthur Smith. We're going to get into all that in this video, boys. I'm Ron from Fantasy Flow, man. I would really appreciate a like. If you're new here, hit me up with the subscribe, hit that notification bell if you want to catch these videos. So let's hop into this video, man. I'm going to tell you what you can potentially trade him for, what his value's at, kind of the situation. So let's hop into it. I think he's appropriately ranked in redraft. This is a dynasty video, so we're not going to talk too much about it. Like, the dude does have a lot of upside just in terms of his touchdown dominance. The fact that he's the only guy now with the Steelers, like the depth chart's absolutely thin for the Steelers, right? It's Calvin Austin, it's Pat Freiermuth as the only other like receiving options. Now you can lump in Jalen Warren there too as like a receiving threat, which I think he will be. I think he will take away targets, right? I don't think DK Metcalf has this like 140 plus target type ceiling anymore. But anyway, we're gonna get into this. So the Steelers looking ahead at this next year, right? Because in Dynasty, you want to win every year, right? So we're gonna look at this next year as kind of in a vacuum, right? Because this Arthur Smith offense, DK Metcalf being the alpha on this team, this is how we can best value him going forward, right? Because he's either going to lose or gain value this year. So they have the 27th hardest strength of schedule in the whole NFL. So there's only 5 teams in the NFL with a harder strength of schedule than them. And Mike Clay, who every year he does these projections where he's one of the best in the industry. Everybody references him in the offseason, right? He's got them 27th in points scored. So in his projections, they're 27th. They're near the bottom of the league. Now, that's to be expected with any type of like Arthur Smith offense. That's kind of been par for the course the past couple of seasons. And Metcalf's projections are actually not bad, right? So he's projected at 73 receptions for 1,049 yards and 6 touchdowns. That puts him at like, the wide receiver 9, 10, kind of that borderline like top 12 type wide receiver season. So not actually bad in terms of his projected production. Now, this is where I think he's going to miss the mark on this. Last season, the Steelers only had 499 pass attempts. So they were 29th in the NFL. There were 3 teams worse than them in pass attempts. So as I mentioned, Arthur Smith last season. Now, they have a combination of Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. So, they have 2 running backs that are okay, right? Like Najee Harris and Jalen Warren were kind of both splitting the backfield. But for the most part, Najee Harris was kind of like the 1A. And, they barely passed the ball, dude. Even with Russell Wilson, who, he can sling it, dude. He's still like a pass-first type of quarterback, in my opinion. At least he doesn't really scramble as much anymore. But that kind of just tells you what kind of offense we're going to be dealing with, right? So I know, past production is not always going to predict future, but when you have the same type of offensive mind in the building, I think it's safe to assume that we're going to have a similar type of offense, right? So in that environment, in that low passing environment, George Pickens, who was the bona fide alpha, there was nobody behind George Pickens. As I mentioned, it was like Calvin Austin, Pat Freiermuth, the same type of ragtag crew behind him. He only had 59 receptions, 900 yards and 3 touchdowns, dude. Absolutely horrific. He tanked a lot of teams. I was drafting him in like, the 4th round, 5th round as an upside pick. I thought that he could be like, he can propel potentially into like the top 15, top 12 even. I thought he was going to be like a deep threat guy with Russell Wilson. I was hype about George Pickens, dude. I think a lot of fantasy experts were, right? I mean, I'm not a fucking expert, but now let's look at another instance. So that was George Pickens with Arthur Smith last season. Let's look at Drake London with Arthur Smith in 2023, right? So that was the last time there was another like bona fide alpha, very exciting young wide receiver with Arthur Smith. Again, he was absolute fucking cat shit, dude. He had 1 game the entire season over 15 fantasy points. So most of the games, especially the beginning of the season, he was getting like 7 targets, 12 targets, then 6, 7, 7, 4, 1, 5, 7. So there was like a stretch of games between week 3 and week 12 where he never had over 7 targets. And this is, in a season where it was really just Drake London, Kyle Pitts. They didn't have Bijan Robinson yet, and yet he couldn't get the ball. There was nothing for him. So it was horrendous, dude. And a lot of people were trying to move off of Drake London. I think if you bought Drake London in that time, I was saying this. A lot of other dynasty experts are saying this, that you want to buy Drake London, right? The Arthur Smith effect is going to impact Drake London. His value is going to tank. Go out and buy him. And a lot of people were saying the same for Kyle Pitts, which if you did that, you're probably fucking still, crying yourself to sleep every night. But Drake London was a huge buy low, right? Because he was still very young. He was in his second season, right? He was a sophomore. So, what does that mean for our boy DK Metcalf? He is over the hump. DK Metcalf is not a 21-year-old the way Drake London was in 2023, where that introduced a buying opportunity, right? It introduced a window for us to go out and buy Drake London, knowing that Arthur Smith is going to ruin him, his value is going to tank. Let's go out and buy him. DK Metcalf, on the other hand, I don't think has that same type of buying window, right? He's already old. He's already 26. I believe 26, going on 27. So it's rough out here, bro. Rough out here in the streets. Now, if you guys, just for a little bit more context, Drake London, the last season, so after Arthur Smith departs, is the wide receiver 5 on the season. So I don't know, man. I mean, correlation, causation, I think there's a lot of factors involved, supporting cast, quarterback. Like Drake London didn't really have a quarterback in 2023, so that's maybe why he was bad. Arthur Smith really didn't use, a combination of Desmond Ridder and fucking Taylor Heineke, I believe. While with Cousins and Penix, you could say that's why Drake London produced. But I do think the offensive coordinator has a huge impact, in my opinion. And I think you should be trying to get off him. I think this is the time where let's cut our losses, bro. Let's cut bait. Let's get DK Metcalf off our teams now before his value tanks even more, because I think his value is already starting to fall. Like sharp leagues and people who are really like tuned in to kind of the situation, they know about Arthur Smith, right? They know that the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's always a low passing environment. It's not fruitful for wide receivers. We know this, right? But if you're in any type of league where you can trade DK Metcalf now before the season starts and before we start to see. Now, I just want to add one thing. DK Metcalf could produce this season. He could hit that 10 touchdown mark. And if he does, he'll be a good wide receiver. I don't think he has like 1,400 yard, 10 touchdown ceiling. I don't think he can hit that 1,400 yards. I just don't think there's going to be enough passing attempts. There's going to be enough yardage to go around. They're a team that really wants to run the ball on like first, second down as much as they can. So I don't think it's an environment that's, going to help a guy like DK Metcalf, especially because they don't even have a quarterback yet. Like Aaron Rodgers is not signed. I saw reports that Arthur Smith doesn't actually want Aaron Rodgers, that he doesn't think he's going to fit the type of offense he's going to have. And I don't think Aaron Rodgers would want to be there either. So let's look at some trade values. We're going to look here at Keep Trade Cut. Really good resource. Head over to keeptradecut.com. You can look at their trade database. You can look at their rankings, where it's got like all the rankings of all the players, including picks. It like puts them where you should consider a pick versus that player, right? So DK Metcalf is currently ranked 78th, putting him around the likes of Colston Loveland, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Chris Olave, Derrick Henry, Jamison Williams, Jackson Dart, a late 2026 first. So with that in mind, what does that mean? Now, looking at this list, I personally see Matthew Golden at 88th. I would take Matthew Golden over DK Metcalf. If you can trade DK Metcalf right now for Matthew Golden, you might even be able to squeeze out like a 4th round pick or even like a late 3rd round pick. I would pull the trigger on that without even thinking. DK Metcalf, by the way, is only 27, right? He's 27, almost 27 and a half. So by the time the season starts, he'll be exactly 27 and a half. So yeah, man, if you could trade him for a first, any type of 1st round pick, I will do that in an absolute heartbeat. If you could trade him for Olave straight up, I would even consider that, just because I do think the Saints have a slightly more optimistic future in terms of the passing environment looking forward. A lot of people might disagree with that, but I just think they have nothing to lose, right? They're a team that are going to be dog shit. They're going to be throwing the ball from here on out. They don't have a defense. And Chris Olave is slightly younger. So I would make that 1-for-1 trade personally. I would trade him for Jalen Waddle straight up, also in a heartbeat. Jalen Waddle's a full year younger and in a way better passing environment. And I do think as Tyreek Hill starts to get pushed out, I do think Jalen Waddle ends up having a year or two of like good alpha production. So those are some trades that I'd be looking to make. Let's head over to Dynasty Calc or Dynasty Calc, Fantasy Calc, I forget. We're going to look at a couple more trades that have happened in the past. So these are trades that people are actually making, and I'm just going to give you my thoughts on which ones I would do, which ones I wouldn't. So first one here on the list, Baker Mayfield and DK Metcalf for Bo Nix and Trey Harris. To me, that's a double upgrade. You're going Baker to Bo, where Bo offers a lot more rushing upside and is in a really good offensive environment. I know Baker Mayfield's offensive environment's even better, but I think Bo Nix is a nice, where it seems like a downgrade, but it's actually, in my opinion, a lateral move because Bo Nix is much younger, right? So, and then DK Metcalf for Trey Harris, that's almost, let me think. That's a downgrade, I think, especially this season. But in a dynasty league, if you're looking ahead and you're looking at the fact that Trey Harris is one of the better prospects, right? He actually grades as one of the better prospects in this class. Goes to the Chargers, going to be alongside Ladd McConkey. He's got Justin Herbert throwing him the ball. Now, that's a team that also wants to run the ball, but I do think it's a slightly better pass environment. They're more keen or more privy to be using like play action, deep balls, and I think Trey Harris fits in perfectly with Ladd. So that's a trade I'd be looking to make. DK Metcalf in the 106 for the 103. So you're basically moving down 3 picks. You're moving down 3 picks, but you're giving up DK Metcalf to do that. Now, that really depends on who's on the board, right? Like, if you're moving down to pick up Travis Hunter and, you're giving up, I don't know who would fall to the 106, maybe a Travion Henderson. I make that trade. I would do it if Travis Hunter's still on the board. If Tet is still on the board, I'll do that trade, which usually they end up being on the board, right? Like, usually it goes John T and then Hampton, and then usually you're left with like, you're pick of the litter between Tet, Travis Hunter, Emeka Egbuka, if you want to take him that high, Travion Henderson, as I mentioned, RJ Harvey, if you like him and you want to get him that high. So that's another trade that I think I'll be making depending on who's on the board. Obviously, if Travis Hunter's gone at the 1-2. I might be thinking twice about that. I mean, Tet McMillan, I think I would take him straight up. So, let's look further down this list. I saw DK Metcalf for a 2026 first. Smash that all day, dude. It's just, 2026 first. Yeah, you're not getting any value this year, but that could end up being like a high draft pick, right? Because DK Metcalf could end up tanking that person's team that he's on. So that's a trade I'd be curious to make. DK Metcalf and a 2027 third round pick for the 106. Again, you're giving up a 2027 third round pick, and you're getting this season's 106 that ends up being usually Emeka Egbuka. That could be Travion Henderson. If you want to reach a little, that could be Luther Burden, who I really like as well. So those are some trades that I really like. Those are some trades that I'd be looking to make for DK Metcalf. You don't want to be the guy, dude, standing there, dick in hand, all of your friends fucking calling you gay because you still have Julio Jones on a team where he's a free agent. He's 38, and I still have Julio Jones on my team. And I get made fun of till this day. I just dropped Odell Beckham Jr. Like, that's how difficult it is for me to fucking get off of wide receivers. I'm always too late to sell them, dude. So be a little bit early, sell them now while they still have value. Try to get some contingency value, some later value, 2026 picks, 2027 picks even. That's what I'll be doing, boys. Hope you like this video, man. Let me know what you guys think about DK Metcalf. Maybe, a lot of people, disagree, right? They think that the Steelers are going to be a very balanced team. They're going to be running it. They're going to be slinging it down to DK Metcalf. He's going to be getting a shit ton of touchdowns. They're all going to go to him. So let me know what you guys think. Super curious. And if you like this video, hit me up with a like. If you're new here, a subscribe would super help. I'd really appreciate it. Always down for feedback. Let me know if you guys like these types of videos, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.